My name is Abigail. Thanks for coming in for the UX and product design meetup. Today's topic is going to be Think Like a Designer. And I have this handy dandy FigJam file. And today is more of a workshop than it is me talking at you. So would love if you collaborated with me as we learn how to think like a designer. So just as an intro, my name is Abigail. And I'm originally from the Bay Area, Pittsburgh, small town, the area part of the Bay Area. And I've lived in Vegas now for 6 years. My first job was as an after-school program teacher, but currently I work as a product designer, and I also have an Airbnb. So as a product designer, I work at a company called Omnicell, and what we make are automated dispensing cabinets. So think of pharmaceutical products, and it's essentially a vending machine where nurses come to get controlled substances, and we're making sure that the nurses pick the right med for the right patient at the right time. And what I do is work on the software, but also the hardware. So thinking about, okay, as I press this button, what is the hardware doing? What is the user doing? What does the user need? And I think my job is really fun because I'm Filipino, but I'm not a nurse. All my family are nurses. And I think what's cool about this job is Omnicells are actually in 50% of hospitals in America. And so I get to talk to a lot of nurses and say, hey, you work on this cabinet. What are your pain points using this? And I get to do research on those pain points and create new solutions for our next gen software. Hey, welcome in. And for our shameless plug, we actually have a Las Vegas UX UI meetup group online for those who are looking to get connected with our community. It's kind of dead right now, but would love to connect with others. So if you wanted to scan that, I'll give a few minutes. Let's see, command. Is it big enough?
Yeah, it's good.
Well, you're in the front, so. Alrighty. Let me know if those links work. I don't think I actually tested them. Great UX. Thank you. All right, so let's dive in for today. So a little bit of context. We're gonna learn how to think like designers, how to empathize with our users, and define the problems that we're solving. And I could send out this FigJam link so you can actually click on the links. But for those of you who aren't designers or maybe are interested in learning about design, highly recommend N Group or Nielsen Norman. Don Norman is like the father of UX. And for those who are interested, definitely check out those resources. Interactiondesign.org is also a place that I recommend for beginners to start so that you learn the buzzwords and kind of the tools or ins and outs of product design or UX design. And lastly, there's something that I'm going to be going into of more so than just problem solving products and things for work. What's cool about being designers, you can apply these principles to your own life, and we'll get into that a little bit more. So I have this QR code for the book, and I'll get into a little bit of that. Alrighty. Forgot to do my pulse check. So just wanted to go around the room and see who my audience is. So raise your hand if you're a designer in this room. Got a couple of us. Engineers. Cool. Some people raising their hands for both. Awesome. Some PMs. Oh, raising their hands for more. And any founders in the room. Awesome. Great. Looks like there was a lot of unicorns in here who wear multiple hats. So helps me understand who's in the room and how I can talk about things. So how many of you have seen this wheel or understand the design process cycle. It's not really like a circle. We actually go back and forth between different phases. But as a designer, we usually think in these phases. One is understand. 2 is to explore your idea, where you tinker around and prototype. 3 is when you actually go to build the thing. And yeah, today's topic, I'm just going to focus on the empathize, define, so the understand part. And we'll dive into some exercises or tools that we can use to understand our user as well as define the right problem. So we'll start here. A lot of times I have friends who say, hey, Abigail, I have this really cool idea. And it's like whether I have an app for this or I want to start a store. An example is I have a friend who's like, hey, I have this idea. It's going to be an app and people are going to tell stories about love. And I'm like, all right, tell me more. Well, it's going to do this and people are going to be able to check in. And it's kind of like a dating service, but it's also going to be a storytelling thing. And like a laundry list of different features of that thing is going to do. And the first thing I'll ask is, cool, so who's this idea for? Who are your users? And a lot of times they're not thinking, well, I don't know, because everybody's going to use this thing, right? Everybody has a story about love. I'm like, okay, well, are these for people who have gone through heartbreak? Are they telling their stories of survival, or are they telling stories of how they first met? Where are they going to tell these stories? How are they going to find your app? And so I think that's what we're going to get into today is kind of understanding who our users are through a couple of tools that I have found helpful. So as user experience designers, we advocate for the user's needs and solve problems from their perspective. So yes, we understand business needs, but as a designer, I think I really hone down on what the user's needs are and kind of understanding things from their perspective, their pain points, their wants, the things that they need to do. And for today, we're kind of doing a fictitious brainstorm. So I have 3 different prompts. One is an app that lets kids design their own toys. Maybe we have an idea for a phone that seniors use, or a digital recipe book where someone can, log their recipes from their grandma. Raise your hand if you're interested in idea number 1. I think we're number 1. Okay, so we're going to design an app that lets kids design their own toys. I'm gonna type this out. All right, so let's start to brainstorm. Who is this app going to be for? Who are the users of this app? You can shout them out. They're my parents. What's that? Grandparents, sure. Or relatives.
Yeah, guardians.
Yeah. Teachers. That'd be cool to use this as a learning lesson in the classroom.
For kids, maybe it's helpful to define the age.
Yeah.
So maybe like 8 to 12. So you get past the iPad, like struggles into the like understanding software. So we don't have to
Yeah.
that.
Yep. Absolutely.
You also probably have to get into what type of toys. So are you designing like action figures? It's different than electronic toys. It would be different than.
Sure.
And
Yes, I hear you. And there's definitely part of that, part of the process of we have to think about what the thing that we're building is. But for right now, we're focusing on who's the person that we're going to design for. And for the sake of time, so that we can move through the different exercises, wanted to pick one persona that we would want to design for. In the real world, we'll have to probably solve the different problems for the different people who are using this app. But yeah, who would we like to focus this on? Probably the kids would be the funnest part, right? Yeah, I'm just gonna pick kids. Let's turn that into a different color. So we're going to, and this is just, keep in mind, we're only understanding who this person is and defining the actual problem. So typically when we're designing a product, we get information and create a persona. Raise of hands, do we know what a persona is? All right, most people. I don't even have an actual definition, but from my understanding, a persona is kind of like, hey, this is our target audience of who we're thinking of to solve these problems for. And in the real world, we would actually be getting data to create this persona. We don't have time to interview or look at a database or anything like that. So we're kind of just gonna go on the fly and figure out who our persona is. So we're thinking of an 8-year-old kid. And I'm just going to give them a generic name. Alex could be a boy or a girl. We don't discriminate. They're 8 to 10, so they know how to use technology already. Oops. And obviously, kid shouldn't have marital status or occupation yet.
Actually, do it single.
Single. Let's just say that we're aiming for kids in the Las Vegas Valley. So let's start to think of what would be the goals and needs of Alex, the person who is designing these toys. What are they hoping to get out of our toy making app?
So have fun.
Yeah, first and foremost, right? What else?
The hero.
They're a hero.
So they want to be able to make a toy of a specific person or object or thing. Probably.
Sure.
I would say that they want to create something that doesn't already exist, like, existing toys don't really meet their needs.
Mm-hmm.
So they would like to design something new.
Sure, and that could be a pain point, right? Or maybe something that's a motivation, something that doesn't exist. What else?
Collaboration and collaborate on other toys.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Make something with their friends.
Opposed to something new on whatever platform it is, it should have the up-to-date knowledge. Like, for example, when a kid plays a video game,
Mm-hmm.
it has a character that says, I want this one.
Okay.
I want it to work. I want this one right now. So, like the whatever data is there, it should be up to date, like AI.
Something that exists but they don't have yet, or something that exists and they want to make it better?
I would say something like, let's say, something within like within 2-3 years, and then they can recreate, on their own.
In other words,
Portray
correct me if I'm wrong, is following up with Trench's family. So you're saying they want a particular character from a particular video games, for example.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They want to get a figurine of that character so that
Okay.
they know how to go out and get the most recent version of that character
Sure.
from the video game.
Got
And
it.
that's, I think, what you're trying to say. Is that correct?
It's correct, and at the same time, the data that is in this platform, like the software
Mhm.
they're gonna create that is up to date.
Mhm.
It does include all this recent, whatever Disney type of characters or video games.
Yeah.
Follow those trends.
Yeah.
Like Baby Yoda, for example, within the last 5 years.
Right.
Right? So if it doesn't have Baby Yoda, then it's going to be like a heartbreak for a lot of kids.
Oops. Trends. Cool.
For goals, but knowing how parts make up a whole.
Tell me more.
Because let's say, for instance, they make a toy, right? They can interchange the parts. And so you can change, let's say, for instance, you make Sonic the Hedgehog, you change his hairstyle, you know, you can recognize that that is still part of Sonic, so interchangeable parts would, you know.
I'm also going to put, sounds like creativity.
Sure.
Customizability.
There you
Yeah.
go.
There you go. That's a better word. Customizability. All right. I think. Any others?
I thought that it should have, like, with the creation of existing something, it
Mm-hmm.
should have templates. Yeah.
We're getting into defining features, right?
Yeah.
Of what that thing might do.
That would be much easier for them to, get what they
But I think she's got a point though, because the pain point is if a kid doesn't know how
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
create the object, how to get started. So you need, templates are there, tutorial.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, what was it, old, like the Night Bright or something? They had like templates for different, like a clown or a character. And even old magazines would publish templates on what you could do with the Night Bright or whatever it was called.
Sure. So they don't know how to get started is one thing, like maybe they need some kind of prompts. Another thing is maybe they don't have the technical skills or abilities, so this thing could be a lot. Maybe.
No, we're talking kid 9 to 12. I think the number that could actually at that age is like less of your hand in the country. Or
Sure.
the country, not Las Vegas.
All right, so we kind of have an idea of Alex and the things that motivate them to make a toy or the goals, etc. The next thing that we can get into is really getting into, the things that Alex might be saying or thinking or doing or feeling. And I want to do a time check so we can be a little bit faster on maybe the things that this person is saying or thinking or doing or feeling. So I guess starting with doing, what does this user do already that this app may not do? How are they being creative or fulfilling their goals?
Well, what they're doing is they're playing, and they're just going to expand it to have more play.
Yeah. What else?
They're drawing.
Drawing their ideas. Go ahead.
Be like imagining, like, coming up with stories for their games.
One more for doing. We'll do 4 of each.
Don't they like use things incorrectly?
Tell me more.
Like a pot becomes a hat.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm going to say pretending
Yeah.
or improvising.
That's a better way.
Alrighty. What is this kid thinking about?
Toys.
No, because especially when you start talking about it, they're playing, they're imagining, they're creating stories in their head. So they're thinking about how the people are going to interact in their story. They're thinking about the events that will happen in their story. It's a lot because you're really, what they're thinking about is, okay, I've got so-and-so, and he's involved with such and such and such and such is going on. And he's creating a story.
So they're thinking about the story that they're going to tell with the toy that they're designing.
Yes. Well, and they're thinking about lots of stories because no one's going to buy a toy. No one except for a film studio is going to buy a toy for one story. They're going to reuse it over and over and over again.
Sure.
They're thinking about what they don't have.
What?
They're thinking about what they don't have.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
I think
choices, and they will decide.
Yeah. Maybe they have choices. Another one?
You know, I'm thinking like this kind of goes into the storytelling a little bit, like, you know, just kind of putting myself in the position of a kid. I feel like kids think a lot about like winning and losing, like who wins the game and
Sure.
who loses the
If they're
game.
competitive.
Like, yeah, maybe like, you know, competition or something like that, I don't know.
Or back to the story when a kid doesn't know how to do it, you will ask a question, you will think how to start out.
Yeah. How do I start? What do I want to make?
Yeah, what we want to make, how to start, so there should be some kind of help, information for the start.
And what do I get, I guess, might be a good one. I feel like kids think a lot about like, what do I get out of this, or what's my reward, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
I-
question
Definitely goes
is,
back to their motives.
Is that when you end up in the States, or is that when you end up in the field?
Or it could be what they say. What do I get out of this? Yeah. You can see that.
Thinking about the psychology for kids,
Mhm.
like what my peers will think when I bring this story to the school.
Yeah. What will my friends think?
Yeah, what will my friends think?
And lastly, what would this kid feel, or I guess we still have two more, but going over to the feelings, and then we'll start to actually get into some fun stuff. So what would this kid be feeling as they're using this app? More than happy. Yes, they're going to be happy using this, but what else?
You feel more creative.
Creative? Imaginative? Go
I would
ahead.
say excited.
Excited.
Unique.
They feel unique.
Competitive.
They can also be competitive. I'm going to make the best toy.
Independent.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. They feel like they're equipped to make something and use their imagination.
In control.
What was the one that we just said before? In control? Independent. Yeah,
And then the other thing is they feel in control.
for sure. Alrighty. I think now we're getting into the heads of what a kid might feel as we're using our app. And the next thing that we're going to do is, now that we have a little bit of better understanding of what they're thinking or saying or doing as they're using this, we're actually going to start thinking about the actions that they're going to do to build the toy. So for this, it's called a journey map. And usually for the journey map, are you guys able to see that? It's big enough. Is step one might be, I don't know, there's a login screen. There's always the boring stuff, right? And then step two, maybe like what you said, or someone said, there's probably a step process to this. Like, are you building an action figure or a plushie, or I don't know, a doll, or maybe something else. So
You're selecting a template.
what's that?
You're selecting a template.
Selecting a template, yeah, definitely. So for this template, we're going to talk through what are the different actions that this person might be doing. Like, the first step is logging in, so we're not going to include that. But the last step is probably sending it off to the company to actually make the toy, like a physical product for them to order. Let's just assume that the end goal of this is to make a physical product that they can get mailed to their home. So after logging in or creating a user account, what would be the first step for?
First thing, I think we'd have to select a template.
Select a template.
You know, what type of toy they making, what kind of parameters, etc.
I think before the template, because it's going to be account information, there could be some kind of data that is not related. Should be like in a lot of this type of apps, there's like a huge, big button that says start.
Yeah.
Start now.
Mhm.
So it's like going to be visible where they move to exactly that environment, creative environment where they can start working.
Mhm. Yep. And I said, like, let's assume that they did have that huge start button of like, all right, let's get started. Once we actually get into the meat of it, go ahead.
What about like learning like the basics before selecting a template? Like what about like an onboarding tutorial?
Do kids use tutorials these days? I'm not sure. Maybe.
Because like I played with my young nephews, and he's like a toddler. He doesn't know how to use the full app for like a lot of different things. Even if you skip the tutorial and you're doing it dynamically, there are features that just don't become evident because nothing is guiding them well.
Sure. Okay. So maybe the first thing before they even choose is they watch it in action. So I'm just going to put tutorial.
Or like a walkthrough or something. Like you know Adobe does that a lot with like they'll give you the little walkthrough projects.
Yeah.
How about just 1, 2, 3 first steps selecting phase,
Yeah.
second what materials you want to use,
Yeah.
third what you want to accomplish, that's it.
You know,
It could be.
Legos are.
Yeah.
Like you get a Legos, it's not like a kid goes and just builds something.
Right.
Yeah.
He gets a tutorial, but the tutorial is so easy to follow. I just read an article about it. There are engineers working like studying for writing those tutorials for years. You know, just
because they need to make it
as
simple.
easy as possible. So that's what probably could be implemented there as well. You know, like similar concept. You know.
Lego apparently has like a big reputation for making child-friendly learning materials.
Oh yeah, like they even publicly state what their goals are on global scale. They have to make it as accessible as possible. Which is weird for a physical product. It works.
So for the sake of time and also simplicity, let's just deduce it to 3 easy steps, right? It's usually easy as 1, 2, 3. So let's move this back. And this is the beauty of designing right. There's always multiple ways that you can attack this, but gotta get something on paper and then move through it and then iterate afterwards.
Step 3 would probably be for them to customize. Step 3 would be, not that one, that one I can find.
So let's say the first step, make it easy for them. They have something that they can choose between, right? Second step would be to start customizing that template, right? And then what would be the last step after they've already, decided that, oh, this is really something that it's cool.
Third step would be some kind of search for them. So for example, they're saying they want, let's say, a Yu-Gi-Oh character. I don't know why. So then they select the Yu-Gi-Oh character they want. The third step would be for the system to go out and get Yu-Gi-Oh images and confirm with them that's what they want.
Well, if that's the actual thing that the product does, then sure, that could be one of the things. But maybe it's like ordering the thing or confirming, right?
Yeah.
Confirming that they like the thing that they built.
Yeah, so it's searching and confirming. Because it's going to search and they don't have to, the user doesn't have to pay attention to the search, but it does need to happen.
I was gonna say save it and maybe edit it later if they wanted to whatever they customized, and maybe they wanna go call their mom and say, oh, mom,
Yeah, this is the thing, look at the thing I built, right? And it's not the actual kid that's pressing order now, right? Like, I hope these kids don't have access to a credit card.
because the credit card is what I'm
Yeah. So because we're focusing on the persona of the kid, that's probably the last step. And then after that, they have to go tell their parents, like, hey, this is the thing that I want. All right, so now we have our easy steps of first, they select a toy that they're going to make. Then they're going to make their customizations. And finally, they're going to save the thing and then hand it off to their parents to actually order. So what would be the tasks that they need to do during the phase of selecting a template? And it doesn't have to be in order. It's just, what are the things that they do at this stage?
I see it as an AI assistant.
Decide.
Yeah, he says that I want this toy with, with blue or whatever.
Color,
Yeah, and then
color texture.
and then they will suggest those templates.
Customizing would be like picking the, color or texture. We'll get to that step in a second. So at this stage of selecting a template, maybe there's 3 different types. Like I said, there's a plushie, or I don't know how
We
to.
would also need to know the durability. We have to decide that durability is part of selecting the template. Because there's a difference between a stuffed animal toy and a hard plastic action figure.
Like select materials kind of thing, right?
As a 8 to 12-year-old, am I thinking about the type of material that the thing is going to be built?
Yeah, I don't think an 8 to 12-year-old is going to be able to have the knowledge to select materials. But durability, they'll say, is this going to be used with rough play, or is this going to be like cuddling in bed? That kind of thing. The functionality, durability.
I would think that it comes in the customized phase of like, okay, once I pick the thing, like first you got to pick with 3 things, right? Between a plushie or action figure, what have you. Like there's got to be a basis. And then between that first choice, then it's like, okay, I have this plushie, maybe it has a silky material, maybe it has, like you go into the actual details after. Maybe.
I think that would be part of the template. Because the plushie would be a different template.
You can make it as a part of the template, and then you customize the template after that, right? You don't want to alter the previous.
So I think the template should come with the material, like
Yeah.
material options, and you pick that template. When you get there, you can decide the size, the durability.
Right.
You can mix and match from somewhere else.
Right, especially if the parent is the one selecting the template, right?
Yeah. But if it's just one, like the different templates, they have a lot of options to pick from. So whatever that appeals to them is what they pick. So I guess decide which template.
Yeah, because like, let's say for instance, a parent has to set up the entire app for them to use, they can do a material restriction, right? So
Yeah.
a hard plastic or whatever.
Okay, so what am I putting for this one? Decide which template?
I
Yeah.
think that was technical.
I'm thinking about like giving it a name, but I feel like that could happen like
At the end.
Or
Maybe there's a choice to do, give it a name at the beginning or the end.
Something already?
I think giving a name would fall under safety from the thing they're building.
I'm gonna put that there.
I agree.
We can go between any of the tasks. Right now, it doesn't have to be set in stone, right? We're just brainstorming of what this could look like. Go ahead, in the back.
If you think about doing the template, what if it's selecting a character? Let's say we first choose, I want to build a Spider-Man, and then in the customize, you choose, okay, it's an action figure, or it's a plushie, or it's, it's a
I think structurally we need to do it the other way around. When they customize, they would take Spider-Man. So they'd say, okay, I want a plushie, I want a Spider-Man plushie. Or I want an action figure Spider-Man.
But maybe it's where they want to start from, right? They could start from the plushie, right? Or like choosing what type of thing it is versus like maybe start from a character,
And
right?
I think what she said made sense earlier about an AI prompt that could design a template for whoever is there. So like maybe use prompts and like they could just type whatever it is they're thinking and it will suggest a template for them.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's supposed to be in this.
So we do have a section called improvements or opportunities, right?
Like
Yeah.
in the features, right?
Yeah, I think what you said there about templates, like them selecting a template, we cannot build upon how we want them to select a template.
That's
Sure.
I think the questions make sense.
I'm going to write down, so in this section is improvements or opportunities. So this is where like the ideas of solutions of what the thing actually does would go here. And then for the task is just like the actual thing that they're doing without having a solution prescribed to the thing. I didn't realize we would go into the weeds of this, but I like the discussion that we're having. So what else between these 3? We can just start spitballing any of these, any of the tasks or opportunities.
Well, when you customize, we need to identify the image.
Right.
You know, are we after Spider-Man? Are we after Superman? Are we after Wonder Woman? You know, are we after Barbie? You know, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can they search something or take a picture of something?
probably.
It's like
Yeah, in school, right?
Yeah.
Are we talking about the physical toy or could it be like
3D model.
It could be, well, for this case, let's say that there's templates, right? We're still very high, so we don't know what the actual thing is yet. And this is just for the beginning stages of creating a product, is like, let's just spitball all of the ideas, and then maybe once we identify a problem that we really like, then we can hone in and get into the details. But today we're kind of trying to keep it high level. Let me do a time check of how we're doing.
So I'm starting to like, my brain is finally starting to wake up. So I was thinking, maybe, like, I could imagine like you might pick your parts as a part of the template choice. Like, so imagine like you're a kid who wants to build like a motor vehicle. Like,
Sure.
do you need a little like engine or wheels or something like that, right? Like maybe part selection. Could be
Well,
part of
would that be part of the customizing part, or?
That would be
Customizing.
customized, right?
Yeah, that would be customized.
Well, I guess it depends on the product.
Because if you want like a car, a toy car, then that could kind of go on the template, like with the parts, but
Well,
yeah, it kind of
see,
falls
especially-
between.
Well, the reason why I apologize for being controlled is like if you've got a girl who's selecting a Barbie,
Right.
then you're talking about what kind of clothes she wants
Right.
with it and that customization of the template.
Right.
The car can be either place. You can pick the part as part of the template, or
Right.
you can pick it as part of the customization.
True.
So in order to be
Yeah.
more useful, you would put it into the customization later, because that way you don't restrict all the models as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you would have basically both versions of inherent to the template or inherent to customization. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah.
Yes, we're getting,
So is this, this toy is fictitious, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and so like, I could have a car with pizza for wheels?
sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and so, okay, I think,
You can customize, whatever.
okay, yeah, so I guess what I'm wondering is like, is there a place where they can see an example that someone made, right? So kind of
Yeah.
spark that interest as opposed to like, if you tell them you're gonna make a character or a car, all of a sudden, it's narrow again for them.
I guess we could have that served under template too.
Yeah.
Reference templates versus actual templates.
Starting from scratch versus.
Reference.
Yeah, start from scratch, or,
Yeah, like on a bed of cotton candy.
See, that's also part of the same confirmation process.
Right.
So when you say you confirm, you can come in and say, is this what you want? And then you can go back to. So
Yeah.
it actually generates an image or creates an image
Yeah.
of the toy you're getting. So that's part of the process.
sure. All right, love hearing all of these ideas, love hearing you guys think like designers. Didn't even get a time check. I realized, there's a lot more for us to get to. So hopefully you guys like this activity of doing a journey map. Assume that this is how you do your brainstorming, is of thinking about what solutions that you would like, or features that you would like this app to have. So I'm going to move on to the other parts of, okay, let's say that we had the problem that we wanted to solve. And let's say, because we talked about templates so much, is the kid doesn't know which template to pick. So one exercise that I have yet to implement in my practice is doing the 5 whys. And the 5 whys are to really understand what the root of the problem is. A lot of times when we first think of something, it's like, oh, well, this is my problem. And I have this example here. I spend too much time on social media. Like, does anybody else have that problem? And maybe that's not the actual problem that we're trying to solve here. So bear with me now. But I'm just going to tell this example, and then we can probably do this 5 whys exercise for our problem here of the kid doesn't know which template to pick. So in my example, I am spending too much time on social media. And how this works is, well, why? Why am I spending so much time on social media? And then followed by a because. Well, because I avoid dealing with the tasks that I need to do. Then you ask another why. Why do I avoid dealing with the work tasks that I need to do? followed by a because. Well, because I don't feel like I want to. And then another why. Well, why don't I feel like doing them? Because the tasks stress me out. Well, why are you stressed out? And it's because I'm not sure I can complete them successfully. Now we're getting somewhere. So one more why. Why am I not sure I can complete those tasks? And it's really because it's in a niche that I've never worked in before. So the problem isn't really that I'm spending too much time on social media, like we first thought. My problem is I don't have enough experience or knowledge in the thing that I'm trying to think about, and that's why I distract myself with social media. And that's kind of what the 5 whys does, is really try to dive into the root of the problem that you're trying to solve. So from there, we can actually figure out what that problem is and start to workshop on that problem. I know I went through that part fast. Questions on it?
It's really cool. Just a comment. I think it's really nice to ask all these questions, all these why questions, in order to find the problems. I find this very helpful. And
Awesome.
I guess I'm gonna try to do it in my personal life.
Yeah, let's try to get into it. Like I said, I haven't really tried this exercise, but let's see if we can workshop this together on this problem here of the kid doesn't know how to choose a template. Comment?
Okay, and the why is because the template's made for the manufacturer, not the kid.
Ooh, yeah. And as a user experience designer, we need to think about from a kid's perspective, right?
Yes.
It's the big corporations.
Yeah. Okay, let's see how we can do this. I'm going to do one more time check. We have about 15 minutes. Pressure's on. So, and sometimes 5 whys, you can find the root issue in just one more why. Maybe it takes 8 whys to actually understand, okay, now I have a problem that I can work with. So let's start with the initial problem. Oops, what template? Well, why doesn't the kid know?
Because it's not written for you. It's not written for the audience.
Because it's not written for them. The template okay, so why isn't the template written?
Because it said for people down the road to understand how to build what they need to build.
Hold on, I'm gonna jump in. So aren't we building the templates for kids?
Yes.
Like technically, it is written for them, isn't it?
Well, from a manufacturer's perspective, right? So,
Because what we really need to do is have something with selecting the template. So the first thing the manufacturer needs to add, in order to correctly address the issue, is the template needs to say, ask it, how are we going to play with this? So that it's going to be
getting this conversation?
so
Well, we don't know if we have a manufacturer yet.
let's just all fictitious, right?
Okay,
So let's just assume that, this could be one of the reasons, right? So completely just spitballing ideas of maybe why can't a kid, and maybe they don't understand. Maybe it was, manufacturer built this and they just have instructions and they didn't think about the kid.
Okay, I have a,
Sure?
not enough templates.
Yeah?
Maybe just like 3 templates that you can repeat it in. Gotta have more.
That's a possibility, yeah.
Can we, I guess, maybe try the why, or like the because, not
The
like
manufacturer?
the solution, right, of like the solution, or like the manufacturer, but more of like, it was,
Like a limitation,
Yeah,
like
like
a
a
kid,
kid,
like
yeah.
lack of creativity or
Yeah, like
being a
the
kid.
number of them was not enough of them.
There's too many.
Okay, sure, there's too many. I like that. Let's keep it simple. Okay, so why doesn't the kid know which template? Because there's too many. And why is there too many? Because we're stupid. Just kidding.
It's not enough, and if you want more, you gotta pay a certain amount of money.
We're trying to catch all, right?
There's too many because we're trying to catch all the possible.
That's a good one, yeah.
Yeah.
Not categorized?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Well, the problem with categorizing, they're gonna
get
be
lost.
categorized for adults and not gonna categorize for kids.
Right, and even then, it's still too many at that point.
Okay, so I'm going to pick this one because I think it's good. Like, we're trying to catch all. I feel like that's a good point of like, all right, maybe this is a problem as us as the founders or creators of this app. Now we can uncover it. All right, so we have too many. We're trying to cast a broad net and we can't catch any kids because of that. So I know that there's probably a lot
We've got one
more.
more level, I think.
Okay, tell me more. Tell me. I'm just facilitating here. So why are we?
Why are we trying to catch all?
Because we're trying to get the most amount of revenue stream and have the least amount of customer satisfaction.
So, yeah, let's go
But
with that.
isn't that like there's too many because we're trying to catch all because we don't know who the
Audience is.
actual, kid is?
Well, no, more like we don't know yet what the actual product will
We're
be.
trying to make up for quality with quantity.
It could be both.
Maybe we don't have enough data around what toys are the most popular.
And that could be another one.
Actually, we don't know what they want, is the reason why.
Right, yeah, that's like another word.
Yeah.
Say that.
I'm hearing so many things.
Maybe we don't need templates.
And that's very valid too.
We're breaking the boundary.
Aha.
Let's just set the company, let's just.
Why we don't know what the audience is because we haven't narrowed down the scope.
Oh, that would be a good one too, is narrowing down scope.
And so we've got to narrow down the scope, and there's ways to address that effectively, to help
Right.
guide them to the correct template.
Right.
But those are answers. So you can-
What's the answer?
Answer.
I know, help me move on.
So that's the we've talked about.
Is this, we don't know who our audience is, right? All right, ding, ding, ding. Thank you for helping me move on. So our root problem is that we don't know who our real audience is. And that's where we can actually get started. So we thought our problem was that the kid doesn't know the template that they want to select, but the actual problem is, well, we don't know who we're designing for. And there's a lot more that I had planned, but we're already at 2:05, and I wanted to leave some room for questions, comments. Yeah, it could be related to the thing that we've talked about here. We can go back to something that you're interested in, or you can ask me questions about what I do as a product designer. Yeah, we'll just open it up from here.
How do you use this in your actual job? Because I assume like the empathy map, you wouldn't just be alone full of people just guessing.
Yeah.
Like, you would use that after talking to the potential users and then fill out what they're saying. Yep. Right?
Yep, good question. So I can talk about like what I actually do. Reminder that I work for a company called Omnicell, and we build these ADC cabinets. My persona has already been built out for me, and that's nurses and farm techs. And so if I were trying to figure out who my persona was, I would interview a lot of different nurses. And from that data, maybe I interview 10, and maybe I send out surveys. And from that data, it's like, okay, I'm seeing patterns here, and I can create this persona that I'm gearing my product for. And at my company, we actually have like 3 different personas for the nurse. There's the med-surg nurse who has the same shift day in and day out. There might be the ER nurse who is frantic and has different things at stake. And we also have the floater who is at different parts of the hospital. And so with keeping those personas in mind, we can think about the different solutions and how they need to adapt for each persona. Good question. What else?
So this is kind of related to that. How much do you utilize primary research versus secondary research in the initial discovery phase? Like, sometimes I find myself stuck on, like, do I really need to, like, go out and do boots on the ground, like, primary research? Or can I gather secondary research? Are you familiar?
I'm like, tell me, what's primary?
Well, do you know what I mean between primary and secondary? So primary is like research that you go out and do, like you're interviewing the users. Secondary is like using something like, there are a few sources, like user research.
Like a research database.
Yeah, like a database.
Yeah. Good question.
And reading research that other people have done.
So I can speak for what I do at my company, and it's a little bit of both. So this is a legacy product that has existed for 30 years, and we can go to the data and it's like, okay, of these configurations, 99% of our users only use this certain configuration. So right off the bat, I can nix all of the other ideas because we're gonna go in this direction because the data said so. And then there might be, I don't know, spitballing here, areas of like, well, I wanna test if this thing actually works. And so looking at the data is not going to tell me if this thing, if this user can successfully pull a med, because that's their end goal. So I'm going to do some usability testing and then go out there and understand like where are they dropping off, where are they having pain points or not understanding. And so, yeah, a lot of times I'll start with the secondary data just so that I have like a more narrow scope to work with. And then from there, I'll drill down and try to get more qualitative data or qualitative.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Any other questions? 1 second, I'm gonna drink and then I'll take your question. Alrighty.
So you're solving a problem and you're trying to, I want to come up with a good idea to show it to people to attract us.
Oh, that's a good question.
Let's say I have a network configuration that's 12 times faster than normal network configurations. How would I go about deciding how I want to show that so as to get people interested?
It's a pretty
Yeah,
broad question here.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm enthusiastic as well.
Well, the first that I had, well, it depends on who am I trying to talk to. Who is my stakeholder? And going back to the topic at hand is, well, what are these personas? What do they think, say, or feel? What are the things that they're concerned about? And based off of what they're interested in, like if I'm trying to talk to an engineer, I'm going to talk about the technical constraints or the technical buzz about the thing. If I'm talking to someone who has money, I'm going to talk to them about the benefits that it might provide them or the money that they can make from my idea. So hopefully that's a good answer. 5 more minutes. Any other questions?
I just have a comment, because I've filled out a lot of pathways past.
Uh-huh.
The reason that the because there's only one because and a single why. So just anybody who's trying to fill this out, it's pretty common to have why did this happen, and have multiple becauses, and then branch up into a tree, and then you ideally want to solve each one of those along the tree.
Say that one more time. What was the question? What was the question?
Comment.
Oh, it was just a comment. Okay, I'm like, I didn't hear a question from that. But yes, I do agree that we can extrapolate a lot more from the becauses. And obviously, from the interest of time, we were just trying to narrow down on one specific problem. But that's a good call out, is that there's a lot of things that we can.
Point that out.
Yeah,
If you're trying to like figure out one because and a single why.
right.
It's pretty common where there's one.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
I have a quick question.
Uh-huh.
So just, if you were to say in a sentence, we did our persona, we did our journey map, our 5 whys, like, what's next? Like,
Good question.
where does it all fit?
Yeah.
What are the 10 steps if you only showed us 5?
Yeah, so there was a lot more that I didn't get to today. But after identifying the root cause, Then I usually work with a PM to understand what the problem statement is. And it's like so that we can clearly define what the problem that we're solving and like what solutions that we're looking for. And after that, what I really like to do is turn them into how might we statements. So how might we fill in the blank? And that way, it's not just a problem that we're trying to solve and get solutions for. How might we opens us up to think more openly about the problems that we can solve without pigeonholing ourselves into a specific solution. And from the how might we exercise, then we would pick, the ones that, feel like are good ways to dive into. And then from there, we actually get into the fun part of problem solving or finding solutions. So I know we didn't get into that, but maybe I can share out this file so that we can actually talk about it. And one last one.
So when would you say like you're ready to start making personas and user stories? Like where would you like draw the line after that initial research and say like, you know what, I feel like this is enough data and let's actually create personas? When do you make that decision?
Yeah, I'm trying to. That's a good question. Well, what I like to do is create the matrix, right, of like what feasibility versus value to the user, and then from there, pick a direction. And for us designers, we are biased to action. So it's like, okay, what is the actual thing that we feel confident enough based on the data and actually start working towards that thing. And maybe I move too fast as a designer, but I'm like, all right, let's like just stick to one thing and start to go from there. And then maybe it's not the right thing, we'll go back and do the research. And obviously you gotta play within your timelines or business constraints. But yeah, figure out what's going to add the most value and the least amount of effort, and that's probably the direction I would start with.
And I guess like the researcher kind of like handles, like do you work with a UX researcher?
I do the all. I am the researcher and the designer and the UI person too, so that's a limitation that I face at work.
So do you use like a number of people, like maybe like 8 interviews or something, and then you make personas based off that kind of thing?
Like I mentioned before, we already have personas that have been defined, thankfully, before I stepped into this role. But if I were new and this was a brand new product, I feel like a safe bet is 8 to 10. And then for survey, it's more so, it depends on how big the product is, but starting off with 20 is a good start.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah. And we're probably at time, so I'm going to share my info. Connect with me on LinkedIn, send me an email. Would love to connect. Yeah, thanks guys.